These failings, identified by investigative journalists, not only let my mother down and my family down, they let the public down too.
August 31st, 1997 marked a tragic turning point that stunned the world. Yet decades later, while organizing personal archives at Highgrove ahead of taking the throne, King Charles located an item totally overlooked by historians, Diana's worn leather riding journal from that final summer. Hidden within its pages wasn't a scandalous secret, but a series of private entries written just weeks before Paris. They detailed her desperate, undocumented hope for a peaceful friendship with Charles, for the sake of their sons, a mature path forward that was tragically cut short, leaving the new king stunned by the future that never was. What he found inside didn't simply break his heart, it forced him to rewrite the history of their final days and confront the haunting decisions that can never be undone. If you're ready to hear the full story, comment 1 and subscribe immediately. We aren't just looking at old artifacts. We are revealing a decades-old communication that has redefined the monarch's legacy, a package that silenced the palace and changed the man behind the crown forever. The morning of March 15th, 2024, began with the disciplined silence that defines life behind the gates of Buckingham Palace. King Charles III sat alone in his private study, immersing himself in the red boxes and constitutional papers that demanded his immediate attention. The weight of the crown, both a literal and figurative burden since the late Queen's passing, rested heavily upon him, and he found a fleeting sense of solace in the quiet, solitary routine of addressing the day's correspondence. Sir Clive Alderton, his private secretary, tapped gently on the door and entered with the Morning Post. Amidst the usual stack of diplomatic bags and state papers sat a peculiar small package encased in weathered blue wrapping. One glance at the address label stopped the king in his tracks. The graceful looping cursive was impossible to miss, a signature style he knew instantly despite the passage of time. "Your Majesty," Alderton murmured, noticing the color suddenly draining from the monarch's face. "Shall I have security screen this first?" Charles shook his head, a slight tremor in his hands as he reached out for the object. "No. Leave me, please, and ensure that I am not disturbed." Left alone in the quiet study that had witnessed a lifetime of his most difficult choices, Charles took a breath and carefully began to peel back the wrapping. Inside lay Diana's jewelry box, not the vault of glittering state pieces she wore for the cameras, but the modest private collection she kept in her apartment at Kensington Palace. The mahogany chest was exactly as he remembered it, elegant and understated with the Spencer family crest etched in gold upon the lid. Attached to the box was a single envelope bearing his name in the unmistakable sweeping script of Diana herself. His heart pounded against his ribs as he opened the envelope. Inside lay a single sheet of cream-colored stationery dated August 29, 1997, written just 2 days before she died. "My dearest Charles," the letter began, and suddenly the king's vision blurred with tears he had refused to shed for decades. "If you are reading this, then I am gone, and you finally understand the one thing I have always known. Beneath all the agony and our public battles, we never stopped loving each other. This box holds the truth I could not speak to you while I was alive. Open it when you are ready to remember who we were before the world demanded we become something else." With trembling hands, Charles set the letter aside and lifted the lid of the jewelry box. A wave of jasmine and rose, her unmistakable scent, rose from the box, dragging him back to the beginning, to the fleeting happiness they shared before the demands of the crown dismantled their story. Yet it wasn't the jewelry that drew a sharp breath from the monarch. Hidden under the silk lining was a second note resting next to an object that was about to rewrite the entire history of their union and her tragic end. This was the secret Diana had guarded. His fingers shook as he retrieved the second note from the box's hidden compartment. It was written frantically, a desperate scrawl dated just hours before she left for France. The ink was smudged in several spots, bearing the physical trace of tears shed in those final moments. "Charles, I am heading to Paris tonight, but I cannot leave without telling you the truth. The child I lost in December 1985. It wasn't James's. It was yours. It was our third baby, our daughter." The confession hit Charles like a punch to the gut. He clutched the mahogany wood for support, fighting for air. A daughter, a child of his own flesh and blood that he never knew had been part of their story. Diana had borne this burden in isolation for more than 10 years. Through the acrimony of their split and the relentless media storms, she had guarded this truth. He forced himself to read on. "I couldn't bring myself to tell you then. You had become so distant, so unreachable after Harry was born. You had already decided our marriage was a failure, and I couldn't bear the thought of trapping you with another child you might come to resent. But I loved her, Charles. For the 3 months I carried her, I loved her with every fiber of my being." The king's vision blurred completely as tears finally broke through, streaming unchecked down his cheeks. He vividly recalled that winter, remembering how Diana had seemed so different, pulling back from public life, pleading exhaustion. He had callously written it off as her usual emotional theatrics, burying himself in state affairs and his relationship with Camilla. "I named her Elizabeth Rose," the letter disclosed, "in honor of your mother and my middle name. I held a small private service at Althorpe. It was just me and the priest. She was laid to rest in the Spencer family plot under a stone that reads simply, 'Beloved daughter.'" The letter continued, "I visit her every year on her birthday, December 23rd. The king's sobs echoed through the hollow study as the pieces of the past fell into place. It explained every somber Christmas Eve, all those times Diana seemed lost in grief, disappearing for hours, only to return with eyes red from weeping. He had dismissed her pain as a symptom of their failing marriage, never suspecting she was honoring the memory of their child. There was, however, one last item. Resting at the base of the box was a small velvet bag. It held a white gold locket centered with a delicate diamond, a piece of jewelry entirely unknown to him. Clicking the latch open, he felt his composure crumble. On one side rested a picture from their engagement, freezing them in time, young, smiling, and full of promise. On the opposite side was a grainy sonogram, faint, yet undeniably outlining the form of their unborn daughter. Charles pressed the locket against his chest and wept for the child he never knew existed. He cried for the wife who had carried that agony in silence, and for the love they had forfeited to pride, duty, and the crushing weight of the crown. The letter had laid it all bare. Fighting through his grief, Charles realized the box held one final secret. Hidden directly beneath the locket was a heavy envelope bearing the words, "Read this last," written in Diana's careful hand. His fingers trembling, the monarch opened it to discover a diary excerpt dated from her very last summer, July 15th, 1997. "I've been thinking about us again, Charles. About who we really were, not the roles we performed for the tabloids and the palace. Do you remember our first night at Balmoral before the engagement? We walked by the lake under the starlight, and you confessed you were afraid of becoming king because you didn't want to lose yourself in the crown. I promised I would be the one to remind you of your true self. The memory was etched in Charles's mind. It was one of the few times he had truly let his walls down with her confessing his anxiety about the weight of the throne. She had squeezed his hand and vowed that she would always see the human being, not just the monarch. It's hard to believe that decades later, King Charles would stumble upon such a deep truth inside her forgotten keepsake. How does this make you feel? Drop a 1 below if you found this moving, or a 0 if you didn't. Fuss. I let you down, didn't I? Diana wrote. I became so buried in my own grief and my hunger for affection that I lost sight of my vow to you. I waged war on you when I ought to have battled for you. I aired our intimate difficulties to the public instead of shielding the life we had created. The monarch felt his chest constrict as he read the lines. This wasn't the public image of Diana. She was neither the martyr nor the damaged spouse. Instead, here was a woman taking ownership, revealing an introspection he hadn't realized was there. The honest truth, Charles, is that my love for you never died. Even during my time with others, even when I exposed Camilla to the press, even in my deepest rage, underneath everything you remained the man I selected, the man I vowed to love, and the father of my sons. Charles put the pages down, utterly overwhelmed. Diana's public narrative was one of betrayal and abandonment. But this private confession revealed a completely different story. She had been protecting something, not just herself, but perhaps him as well. I know about the letters you wrote. The entry read, and Charles felt his blood run cold. The letters you wrote to me after we separated but never sent. Edward discovered them in your desk and let me know. All the apologies, the professions of love, the deep regrets. Why did you never send them, Charles? Why did we both pick pride instead of honesty? The monarch's hands trembled uncontrollably. He knew exactly which letters she meant. He had drafted scores of them after the split, baring his soul, pleading for pardon and confessing his failures. Yet on every occasion, the burden of responsibility and royal etiquette prevented him from mailing them. Then he reached the night Diana decided to come back. The diary entry, written just weeks before she passed on August 10, 1997, read, "I've made up my mind. I am breaking it off with Dodi. None of it was ever genuine. It was merely another effort to spark your jealousy to show I could survive. But I can't walk away from us, Charles. I don't want to..." "But I can't move past us, Charles. I simply don't wish to." The king read with growing shock as Diana unveiled the reality of her connection with Dodi Fayed. The love affair that had captivated the world, appearing to confirm she had found bliss apart from him, was actually a sophisticated performance. "Dodi is a decent man," she admitted, "but he isn't you." No one else could be you. The way you laugh at your own terrible jokes, the way you talk to your plants as if they were old friends, the way you hold our sons as if they were the most precious things on earth. That is the man I loved, and that is the man I want to return to. The king's tears fell steadily onto the pages. Diana had been planning to come back to him. After all the agony, the public humiliation, and the bridges that seemed irrevocably burned, she wanted to come home. "I've been thinking about what we could be if we cast aside court protocol and public expectation," she wrote. "Not as a king and his divorced wife, but simply as Charles and Diana." Two imperfect humans who faltered but never ceased to love one another. Two people who made incredible children together and could create an incredible life together if we just had the courage to try. The journal disclosed Diana's precise intentions. She planned to break it off with Dodi while in Paris, then come back to London to organize a secret reunion with Charles. She had even composed a note to the Queen requesting leave to pursue a truce with her ex-husband. "I realize that Camilla will remain a fixture in his life," Diana wrote with painful honesty. "I have come to terms with that. Yet I also know that what we share is genuine, profound, and worth battling for. Maybe we can discover a path to honor both our history and our future." Maybe we can construct something new from the ruins of what we broke. It hit Charles with painful clarity that this was more than just a reconciliation. She had been mapping out a total rebirth, an opportunity to rewrite their narrative and become the partners they should have been all along. But she never had the opportunity to make that phone call, schedule that meeting, or dispatch that letter to Her Majesty. The Paris trip, meant to mark a new beginning, turned out to be the closing act of her life. That phone call never arrived. The following entry was dated August 30th, 1997, the eve of the accident. Charles struggled to see the page through his weeping as Diana's final written words laid bare the profound tragedy of the bond they never got to repair. "Tonight I nearly called you Charles. I held the receiver in my hand 3 separate times, ready to dial. I longed to tell you of my choice to return home, to give us another try. Yet my courage failed me. What if you have moved on? What if you do not wish for my return? What if I have caused you too much pain to ever be forgiven?" Charles remembered that night with agonizing clarity. He was at Balmoral, alone in his office, gazing at the phone and wondering if he should make the call. He had heard about her time in Paris with Dodi, seen the images in the papers, and his heart was racked with jealousy and remorse. He had also picked up the phone repeatedly, wanting to tell her the truth of his emotions, wanting to battle for their union one final time. "My thoughts keep returning to our wedding," the journal entry read. "It isn't the massive public celebration I think of, but that stolen moment in the private room after the vows. Do you recall, we were granted 3 minutes of privacy before being rushed off for pictures. You held my hand and told me, 'We made it, Diana. Whatever the future holds, we did this together.' In that moment, I felt such pride in being your wife. So proud to have chosen this life with you." The king broke down in sobs as he recalled that private interlude. Amidst all the chaos and pageantry of the royal wedding, those 3 minutes were the most genuine, unguarded moments they ever shared. It was the last time they felt like true partners, rather than actors performing in a royal drama. "I want us to feel that way again," Diana wrote. "To feel like a team facing the world together instead of apart. I know it won't be easy. The press will go into a frenzy. The palace will object. But our sons deserve to see their parents truly happy, not just pretending for the cameras." The diary revealed that Diana had concrete plans for their reconciliation. She planned to return to England for good, putting an end to the endless traveling and the high-profile romances. She wanted to collaborate with Charles on joint charitable causes, merging his environmental advocacy with her humanitarian missions. Most importantly, she wanted to be a family again, not for the sake of the public eye, but for themselves and for their boys. "I am ending things with Dodi tomorrow, and after that I will return to you," the last note stated. "I fear your rejection, but I fear never making the attempt even more. I love you, Charles. I never ceased loving you. I pray it is not too late for us." However, that tomorrow never arrived. That phone call was never placed. The reunion never happened. Charles remained behind, clutching the journal of the woman who was poised to come back to him before destiny stepped in with brutal finality. The truth about Paris. Hidden further inside the box, he discovered an item that froze the blood in his veins. It was a distinct envelope bearing the words, "Urgent for Charles only," penned in Diana's distinct script. Enclosed was a note exposing the true motive for her last visit to Paris. It was nothing like the narrative the public had heard. "Charles, should something happen to me in Paris, you must understand that this trip is not what it looks like. True, I am with Dodie, but not for the reasons the tabloids think. 3 weeks ago, I received a lead on our daughter on Elizabeth Rose. Someone found out about her about the loss I never mentioned to you. They threatened to expose the story unless I withdrew from the public eye permanently." The king's hands trembled violently as he absorbed the words. Diana's last voyage wasn't a romantic escape. It was a frantic mission to shield their family's most private secret from exploitation. "The contact claims to possess medical records from the private clinic where I was treated after losing Elizabeth. Records that were meant to be destroyed. They want me to retreat to end my humanitarian work and to fade into obscurity. If I refuse, they will publish everything: the pregnancy, the loss, and the fact that you never knew. They will paint you as an indifferent and cruel husband who turned his back when his wife needed him most." With every word, the realization hit Charles. Diana's final months were never about moving on without him. She had been trying to protect him, to safeguard the dynasty, and to shield their sons from a scandal that could shatter everything. "I informed them that I needed time to consider their request," she wrote. "Paris acts as my shield, a space to think, to plan, and to protect what we created, no matter how flawed that creation might be." The letter revealed that Diana was secretly working with palace security, trying to trace the individual who had leaked her medical history. She was convinced the threat originated from within the royal family itself, from someone who wanted her silenced. "Dodie knows nothing," she wrote. "He thinks this is real. I hate deceiving him, but the truth is every moment I spend with him I'm thinking of you. I'm thinking about coming home, about facing this together." Charles broke down. She hadn't died chasing a new romance. She died protecting her family. "If they manage to silence me," the letter ended, "promise me you will remember the real me. Tell William and Harry that their mother loved their father until her last breath." Charles crumbled, broken by the truth. Diana didn't just die in a tragic crash. She died carrying the burden of a secret she held to save everyone. The secret meeting never happened. The last part of Diana's concealed files unveiled the most devastating reality. A confidential meeting was set for the day following her arrival from Paris. It was intended as a private reconciliation organized discreetly and bypassing all royal protocol. Included in the documents were copies of the notes Diana had sent to trusted go-betweens to coordinate the meeting in absolute secrecy. September 1st, 1997. Meeting arranged for 3:00 p.m. at the private chapel, Windsor Castle. A handwritten note read, "Sir Robert Fellows has agreed to assist. Charles has been notified via private channels and has agreed to attend. No staff, no security, no records, just the two of us." Charles's heart ached. Sir Robert, acting as the Queen's confidential advisor, had actually flagged him down in late August regarding a sensitive ultimatum, Yet that fateful sit-down was doomed never to take place. Diana perished mere hours before her scheduled flight back to London. Buried within the classified files was a handwritten peace treaty she had planned to present. Charles scanned the pages, his composure cracking, as every ink-stained word dissolved a decade of bitter rivalry and media-fueled distortion. Charles I realized I've lost the privilege to ask for amnesty after the hurricane I forced you to weather. The draft commenced. I am painfully aware that I turned our private struggle into a global spectacle inflicting damage that seemed irreparable. Yet I sense that beneath the wreckage of our hurt and the weight of the crown, a raw, undeniable truth still survives, something that we are obligated to salvage. Diana laid out a radical blueprint for a clandestine reconciliation, stripping away the royal pageantry. Her priority was securing a perimeter for the nuclear family, just her Charles and the boys shielded from intrusion. She offered a shadow endorsement of his environmental crusade, yet the document's true shockwave was her willingness to initiate a total media blackout, voluntarily vanishing from the world stage if it meant salvaging their fractured union. I am surrendering the celebrity status, Charles. The flashbulbs and the adulation have lost their currency. I require you. I require the sanctity of our bloodline. I am begging for a retake to finally embody the partner I failed to be initially. As Charles absorbed the manifesto, the sting of suppressed grief blurred his vision. She had engineered a trajectory grounded not in royal fantasy, but in raw, redemptive mercy. A partnership resurrected from the ashes of trauma. Then came the devastating closer. I acknowledge your devotion to Camilla is absolute, and I have made peace with that reality. Yet I remain convinced our shared legacy is a rare commodity worth preserving. Perhaps we can architect a modern dynamic together. Perhaps affection outweighs ego. Diana was prepared to partition his loyalty, grant absolution, and hit reset. Tragically, destiny issued a permanent veto. That aborted summit possessed the power to overhaul the monarchy's entire timeline. It offered a script defined not by tragedy, but by radical salvation, a truce, and an unprecedented resilience. The existence of the audio tape, however, fractured his resolve. Buried deep within the jewelry case, Charles unearthed the artifact that made his pulse flatline. A solitary cassette tape bearing a stark handwritten directive for Charles strictly private. His fingers fumbled as he slid the plastic cartridge into the vintage deck, a relic usually reserved for rehearsing state addresses. Diana's vocals permeated the silence, intimate and haunting, creating the illusion of her physical presence. This wasn't the media darling, the curated icon. This was the raw, unpolished Diana whispering her truth from the solitude of her sanctuary merely 48 hours prior to the tragedy. Hello, my darling Charles. The recording commenced, and the sovereign openly wept. That specific term of endearment had been their classified constant, surviving the divorce decree and even their most toxic verbal wars. I am archiving this because I lack the fortitude to confront you face to face, yet this confession is mandatory. Her delivery wavered with raw intensity, the sentences punctuated by heavy, pregnant pauses. I was recklessly naive, Charles. So unyielding. I allowed my private agony to calcify into resentment, and I weaponized that bitterness to dismantle you. I apologize. I am profoundly sorry for conducting a public demolition of our character when I should have been the guardian of our foundations. As Charles listened, Diana began to audit the specific chapters of their shared history. The screaming matches that once felt apocalyptic now echoed as the distress signals of two shattered souls unable to bridge the divide. She assumed full liability for the illicit affairs the back-channel deals with the tabloids and the calculated campaigns to humiliate him publicly. The brutal reality, she confessed, is that every time I launched an offensive, every time I engineered a scenario to provoke jealousy or rage, it was simply because I was still fighting for the survival of us. It was a maladaptive form of combat, yet the origin was pure affection. I never possessed the skill set to detach from you, Charles. I simply never figured out how to terminate the love. She recounted the serenity of Highgrove mornings, describing him narrating stories to the heirs, fleeting snapshots of authentic joy that were eventually buried under the avalanche of royal protocol and screaming tabloid headlines. Then came the flashback that annihilated his composure. "Do you recall the night Harry arrived?" she whispered. "You cradled him and wept openly. You declared him flawless, that we were a flawless unit. I replay that scene constantly, the sensation of being a genuine family rather than a dynastic obligation." The recording concluded with her voice fracturing. "Perhaps I've missed the deadline. You might be emotionally depleted, fully entrenched with Camilla, but I was compelled to make this final bid. You remain the absolute love of my life. Even if I no longer hold that rank for you, I am returning to base Charles. I am coming back to wage one last crusade for us." The audio abruptly severed, leaving Charles convulsing in grief, shattered by the intel that she was actively strategizing a reconciliation the moment fate executed its most savage twist imaginable: the monarch's final solitary tears. Concealed among the final artifacts in the jewelry case was an envelope labeled "Charles's rebuttal embargoed indefinitely." Inside lay a manuscript in his own distinctive script, a document his conscious mind had completely repressed. As he scanned the pages, the flashback hit with agonizing clarity. It was the peace treaty he had drafted during the 0 hour of their divorce, a missive he ultimately lacked the nerve to dispatch. Via some inexplicable channel, Diana had intercepted this draft and archived it for years, holding it in reserve for the tactical moment to prove the sentiment was reciprocal. "My dearest Diana," his own penmanship confessed, "I realize I forfeited the right to petition for grace after the magnitude of my failures. The undisclosed truth is that I was paralyzed by the terror of loving you without restrictions. You were incandescent, possessing a raw vitality and an innate capacity to resonate with the masses that I lacked. My terror was that if I dismantled my defenses, you would witness my inadequacy, how emotionally atrophied I had become, shackled by the expectations of the crown." The manuscript unmasked Charles's crippling imposter syndrome regarding their union. Camilla represented a sanctuary, he admitted with savage candor. She levied no emotional tax that I was unable to pay. You, however, commanded the absolute maximum. You required a consort capable of mirroring your colossal emotional bandwidth, a strategic ally in your campaign to revolutionize the globe. I was simply too terrified to audition for that role. At the footer lay a heavily redacted postscript. If you ever entertain a reboot, if you believe we can engineer a superior architecture from the rubble of our demolition, I will dedicate my remaining tenure to earning the title I forfeited. As dusk settled over London, Charles remained barricaded in his study, surrounded by the scattered artifacts of Diana's final bequest. The jewelry case had acted as a time capsule, forcing a confrontation with the man he used to be, the partner he failed to manifest, and the connection severed by ego and fear. The final piece of evidence was a never-before-seen photograph, a candid, unguarded snapshot captured during their honeymoon isolation at Balmoral. The lens captured them hiking lakeside, hands clasped, sharing a rare, unguarded laugh. On the flip side, Diana had penned a manifesto: "This is our default setting. This is what is recoverable." The epiphany washed over him. Her final year wasn't a drift away, but a calculated trajectory back to his side. Every flashbulb romance and tabloid scandal was simply leverage in a twisted waltz of pride and passion, executed while she secretly blueprinted her return. He contemplated the alternate timeline where their daughter Elizabeth Rose was currently 27. He visualized a young woman fusing Diana's incandescent empathy with his own steely resolve, a living diplomatic bridge spanning the chasm between the palace and the populace. As darkness claimed, the study, Charles executed a final decree to sanctify that lost future. He would charter a discreet philanthropic initiative, the Elizabeth Rose Trust, dedicated to supporting mothers navigating the silent trauma of pregnancy loss. Charles methodically secured the entire archive, correspondence, audio logs, and visuals back into the jewelry case. It was now his most guarded asset, the tangible verification that their union was authentic, worth the warfare, and resilient enough to transcend their most catastrophic failures. Turning to exit the study, Charles murmured into the vacuum of the room, "I would have said yes, Diana." Had you executed that return, had you petitioned for a second term, I would have consented. The confession he was too arrogant to voice 27 years prior was finally released, reverberating through the shadows of a chamber dense with ghosts and regret, testament to a bond destined to outlast the monarchy itself. The unvarnished reality of the Charles and Diana saga is infinitely more intricate and devastating than the public narrative ever dared to suggest. Diana's ultimate bequest transcended mere gemstones. It served as forensic evidence that their narrative didn't terminate with the divorce decree, but was actively vectoring toward a truce when the catastrophe hit. The sovereign's grief isn't just for the loss, but for the stolen timeline. A potential sequel, a modernized alliance, and an affection finally sophisticated enough to outmaneuver the ego and the tactical errors of their history. Charles unearthed the reality that Diana had navigated their most classified crises in solitary confinement. The covert loss of a potential third heir, the security threats that necessitated her Paris exile, and the ultimate tragedy, her tactical decision to repatriate to his side. Now the sovereign confronts a binary choice: permanently embargo these revelations, or declassify a truth capable of revising the House of Windsor's legacy forever. What is the king's final play regarding Diana's last manuscript? How will this declassified emotion reshape his tenure and the complex dynamics with the heirs? Keep your eyes on this channel for the continuing saga of dynasty tragedy and the secrets that bind the House of Windsor beyond the grave. We appreciate your viewership on this deep dive. If you found this report compelling, please hit like and subscribe to fund our next investigation. In the world of crowns and ceremonies, where every gesture is calculated down to the millimeter, do undercurrents exist that the media cameras have never reached? Recently, royal observers have been buzzing about a dramatic theory. A silent but profound rift is brewing at the heart of power. Some suggest that behind the diplomatic smiles lies a direct confrontation between future heritage and existing reality. Let's look at the facts. Prince William, from the moment of his birth at St. Mary's, has carried on his shoulders a destiny that is not his own. After the shocking event of September 2022, when Queen Elizabeth II passed away, William was not just a son, he became the pillar of stability. In a context where the monarchy faces uncertainties from departing members, William represents preservation. Therefore, every action of his is highly symbolic. This is where the currents of information begin to intersect. Unverified sources suggest a clash of minds has occurred concerning the positions of those close to Queen Camilla in important events. Is there a scenario of rejection? Some question if a request for increased participation of non-direct relatives is denied, what will happen? A difficult situation is being assumed for King Charles III, caught between two opposing forces, personal sentiment, and the established rules of the institution. Undeniably, Queen Camilla's journey in the public eye has been a challenging one. Despite her tireless efforts in social activities, the shadow of history has always been an invisible barrier. The contrast between a guardian of tradition, William, and someone striving to redefine values. Camilla has created a space filled with speculation about a potential rift. H. In a fictional scenario based on existing events, we see a picture of sacrifice power and harsh choices. Is the palace's silence a testament to peace, or merely the calm before a storm of restructuring? The truth always has many layers, and what we analyze today may only be the tip of the iceberg. What do you think about the mysterious interaction between William and Camilla? Will tradition or change prevail in this subtle battle of wits? Share your perspective below. In the mind of the future king, there are memories that will never fade. It is often said that every step Prince William takes carries the shadow of an endless source of inspiration, Princess Diana. The scar from 1997 is not just a personal pain, but seems to have become a compass shaping his unwavering values. Behind the polite handshakes and formal ceremonies, is there a silent struggle between remaining loyal to the past and accepting a new reality? A new era has begun, but behind the glamour lies a different story. Frequency conflict, full of mystery. Is Queen Camilla's rise going against the blueprint for the future of the next king? The event at Windsor, originally set up to showcase unity, suddenly became the stage for a political battle. Power struggle. Subtle. The focus of attention is the suggestive absence of figures outside the direct bloodline. A scenario is being whispered among observers. Could William have drawn a red line, rejecting any interference from elements outside the ancient rituals in the mainstream of power? J. Here we see not just the story of a guest, but a direct confrontation between unchanging heritage and modern adaptation. William seems to be playing a game where each card carries the weight of both duty and sorrow over his deceased mother. This is an investigation based on fragments of public opinion. Was that unwavering resolve a shield protecting the dynasty, or an echo of an unhealed wound? At Windsor Palace, the guest list is not just a list of names, but a whole new world. Declaration of power. A clash of ideologies erupted. On one side was Queen Camilla's yearning for family harmony, and on the other was her unwavering commitment to protecting the family. Dynastic precedent, Prince William's view. In the eyes of the heir apparent, every loosening of the rules is a step forward. Cracks in the foundation. Monarchy. Tom Parker Bowles, despite his talent, was still considered a monarch. external variable. The climax of this scenario is the hypothesis of a strict security order at the castle gates turning a logistical incident into a major one. Non-verbal message, a cold message to Camilla. That between royal blood and personal relationships there will always be invisible boundaries that cannot be crossed. Behind the calm demeanor in front of the camera, is there a direct confrontation between ancient ritual and modern aspirations? Why was William so resolute? Observant people believe this action stemmed not from malice, but from a commitment to protection, Cambridge heritage. Allowing figures associated with the most controversial period of royal history to delve too deeply into national ceremonies could be seen as a denial of the past. In William's mind, protecting the line between duty and personal relationships was perhaps his way of keeping his promise to his late mother. K. We are witnessing a battle of wits between succession and change. William has sent a clear statement: the monarchy must maintain a sacred distance from personal variables regardless of the cost to relationships. The events at Windsor are perhaps just one chapter in the palace's secret diary. Is this necessary rigidity to protect the throne or a barrier to understanding among its members? Beyond the events at the castle gates, this incident exposed a more stark reality: the unhealable cracks in the power structure of the monarchy. It wasn't just a dispute over the guest list, but a battle to shape the future of a monarchy at a crossroads. On one side were those defending rigid traditional values, on the other, those seeking validation for their own individualistic fragments. Will the past ever truly rest in peace? Or will it forever haunt those who hold the crown? Imagine a lavish evening at Windsor, where music and lights masked underlying tensions. Some theories suggest that behind her calm exterior, Queen Camilla faced a profound psychological shock. The exclusion of a close confidant from the official circle was more than just a matter of protocol. Analysts believe it sent a chilling message about boundaries. For someone who had spent decades building their status, this was perhaps a stark reminder that no matter how prestigious the title, invisible barriers always exist. Why did Camilla choose silence instead of resistance? This is the point that analysts find most intriguing. Instead of a direct confrontation, one sees a resilience in silence. One theory is that she was fully aware of the fragile balance within the royal family. An explosive reaction could be poison to the unity she had painstakingly cultivated. This incident reveals a complex reality: the line between a modern family and an ancient institution is sometimes not as clear as one might expect. L. From Prince William's perspective, this action was seen as an affirmation of the monarchy's future identity, not out of malice, but as an unwavering commitment to the honor and purity of the monarchy. William perhaps believed that to protect the crown, one sometimes had to accept a coldness in personal relationships. We have explored the hidden corners of a dramatic hypothetical case. Queen Camilla's silence and Prince William's steadfastness paint a picture of a monarchy navigating the pains of the past and the expectations of the future. Is sacrificing personal feelings the necessary price to pay to keep the crown shining, or will these cracks only grow larger over time? The truth probably still lies deep within the stone walls of Windsor. If you support William's steadfastness and see it as the act of a great protector of heritage, leave a 2. Conversely, if you feel this coldness is unnecessary and are skeptical about a divided future, leave a 5. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel right now. That's how you won't miss the latest developments in the journey to unravel the mysteries surrounding Windsor Palace. On May 6, 2023, the world turned its attention to Westminster Abbey to witness a symbolic ceremony of power and justice. The scepter striking the ancient stone floor was a declaration of the continuation of a dynasty. Yet hidden behind the splendor of silks and jewels, discerning observers noticed a silent electrical current running through the church. There are moments that need no words to convey messages more powerfully than any speech. Do you believe that silence is sometimes a declaration? Join us as we decipher the moment of no turning back at this historic coronation. As King Charles and Queen Camilla walked down the aisle between rows of majestic seats, a strange phenomenon caught the attention of analysts. While the new king received absolute reverence, an unmistakable silence prevailed as the new queen passed by. Why did no one turn their heads? Why did the usual respect seem to have stalled? Observers hypothesized a growing discontent, a silent protest by those who believe traditional values are being challenged by personal choices. The source of this lukewarm reception is believed to lie in the names on paper. Some sources suggest that Queen Camilla's prioritization of 20 close friends and family, including Tom Parker Bowles, while overlooking key allies who had helped her weather previous media storms, caused a shock within the aristocracy. The absence of these former loyalists was not merely a logistical issue. It was seen as a strategic shift in loyalty, prompting even the most ardent supporters to question it. The tension was not only present within the congregation, but was also evident on the faces of the successors. Princess Catherine's gaze, known for her elegance and composure, Catherine was said to have subtly conveyed a message that day by moderating the usual formalities of respect. Even in complex relationships like Prince Harry's, there was a perceived general dissatisfaction with decisions seen as prioritizing individualism over institutional authority. In the royal world, every action has repercussions. Prince William's decision to exclude Tom Parker Bowles from the Windsor Charity Gala was no coincidence. Analysts consider this a deliberate move. Decree on loyalty William seems to have made a clear statement. Past problems are not easily erased by new titles, and loyalty to the institution cannot be taken lightly. In the digital age, no secret can remain hidden behind the thick oak doors of a palace. When names are crossed off the guest list, it's no longer a private family matter. It becomes a spark for the massive media machine. The British media, masters at deciphering symbols, quickly transformed an individual's absence into a declaration of rifts. Is this a steadfast defense of royal dignity, or evidence of the invisible barriers that still surround a modern family? If you observe online forums, you will see a clear polarization, a confrontation between two ideologies, those who praise the iron principles of the future king. They see it as a reaffirmation of the traditional order, where blood ties and national duty must always take precedence over personal feelings. Those who see the pain of a family struggling to integrate perceive it as a silent but bitter rejection of years of efforts to unite. The debate isn't just about one individual. It's touching on the very essence of the question, should the monarchy be an immutable symbol or a flexible entity that adapts to the times? right moment to fuel theories, began to paint a darker picture. This event was not an isolated incident. It was seen as a small slice, revealed from a deeper struggle unfolding within the Windsor family. Unresolved feuds and accumulated grievances from the past were gradually being pieced together by journalists, shattering the illusion of absolute unity that the palace had long strived to build. At the center of this storm was King Charles III. Analysts hypothesize that the king is facing his greatest diplomatic challenge right in his own home. He cannot afford to show favoritism. Both Queen Camilla and Prince William are key players in his game of governance. A public rift would not only hurt family feelings, but could also overshadow the legacy he is striving to establish. This event was not an accidental mistake. It was a decision weighed heavily on our conscience. It exposed subtle but undeniable cracks in the structure of a long-standing monarchy. In the office, the king's tranquility where personal matters always had to take a back seat. Faced with the nation's destiny, a solution is being sought. Can diplomatic skill heal the wounds of wounded pride? In the world of powerful clans where every wall holds a secret, it is often said, the strength of a dynasty lies not in its scepter, but in the unity of its hearts. Recently, a theory about a secret meeting at the center of power has opened a new lens through which a king governs not just a nation, but his own family. If you believe that personal sacrifice is the inevitable price to pay for protecting a millennia-old heritage, then join us as we delve into the final chapter of this mysterious case. This is a hypothetical scenario based on psychological variables and subtle diplomatic signals. King Charles III, as depicted in this document, is not merely a monarch but an architect of harmony. Observers hypothesize that he understood William's unwavering commitment to ancient rituals, but also sensed his partner's silent pain. A pivotal dialogue is believed to have taken place in the quiet confines of the palace. Instead of dry commands, there were messages about a vision for the century, a reassurance for the queen, a reminder of the future for the heir. Charles painted a larger picture where each individual is an inseparable piece of an institution under the scrutiny of the world. Realizing that the undercurrents could not subside on their own, the king was given. He had taken a decisive step, a private meeting, where all diplomatic masks were removed. Unity was the only shield. Charles reminded his loved ones that any deviation in this symphony could become a vulnerability for storms of public opinion. The meeting ended in the solemn silence of ceremony, but it left behind an unwavering expectation. Unity comes first. Following the events at Windsor, the public witnessed a display of harmony, radiant smiles, skillfully orchestrated friendly gestures. However, from the perspective of theoretical analysts, this may only be a temporary truce. Behind this polite facade, have the rifts between heritage guardians and integration seekers truly disappeared? Or are they merely lurking deeper beneath the surface, the geological strata of royal life? This chapter of Windsor Castle concludes with an atmosphere of quietude but profound weight. King Charles has strived to bridge the gap between the past and the future, between family ties and duty. However, the real mystery lies in what happens after the camera lights go out. Will this unity be a solid wall or merely a thin curtain concealing never-ending storms? What are your thoughts on King Charles's art of reconciliation? Will Camilla's silence and William's steadfastness lead to an era of stability or another explosion in the future? Please leave your opinions and let's discuss. Behind the tranquil facade of millennia-old stone walls, a silent war is simmering. It's not simply a disagreement between two individuals, but a fierce clash of two ideologies attempting to redefine the future of an empire. If you believe that every royal choice is a move in the game of history, join us as we step into the heart of the storm. Can the crown be redefined, or will it be forever? Do they belong to immutable laws? Prince William, from the perspective of theoretical analysts, appears as a guardian of old values. For him, the monarchy was not a stage to adapt to, but a sanctuary to preserve. The memory of Princess Diana was not just pain, but a filter through which William assessed the legitimacy of those entering the circle of power. There are theories that even though Camilla already possessed the crown in the eyes of the successor, true acceptance remained an unsolved variable. Consider the case of Tom Parker Bowles. In our world, he's an unnamed guest, but in the language of the palace, he is the message of boundaries. This exclusion was seen as an act of establishing a symbolic quarantine circle. William seemed to be sending a chilling signal that while power may change hands, the core bloodline and rituals would never be diluted by outsiders. Despite appearing together in front of the cameras with polite smiles, their motivations were believed to be on two different planets, a persistent decades-long quest for recognition. The theory is that she wanted to leave a legacy comparable to that of Queen Elizabeth II, a testament to perseverance and personal value in the annals of history, a commitment to protecting the purity of tradition despite personal emotional sacrifices. At Windsor, the world witnessed a perfect display of unity. Nods and polite greetings satisfied the public. However, in the narrow corridors where longtime members whispered there was talk of the ceasefire agreement is fragile. King Charles III temporarily calmed the waves, but the architects of the future William and Camilla still stood on opposite sides of the battlefield of their visions. In the world of power, rejection is sometimes not expressed in words, but in contracts that are no longer renewed. There's a truth that observers often whisper: Tom Parker Bowles is not the only one in Queen Camilla's family facing an invisible wall from the future monarch. When the spotlight fades from charity events, it shines on another hidden corner called Annabelle Elliott. Why did a professional relationship spanning nearly 2 decades suddenly come to an end at the very moment of the power transition? Let's piece together the variables in this subtle purge. Let's go back in time to 2005. Annabelle Elliott, a talented interior designer and sister of Queen Camilla, was entrusted by King Charles, then Prince of Wales, with the important task of breathing life into the properties of the Duchy of Cornwall. For many years, a significant amount of financial resources were invested in exchange for her exquisite designs. After nearly 20 years as the design soul behind King Charles's real estate properties, Annabelle Elliott, Queen Camilla's sister, has officially had her contract terminated by Prince William as he takes over the Duchy of Cornwall. Although described as a professional transition, analysts view the move as a decree of independence. Cutting economic ties with Camilla's closest relative is seen as a clear act of boundary setting, dismantling the family privileges that existed under the previous era. William emerges as a minimalist architect, moving against his father's family-centric style of management. He is focusing on pruning dependent offshoots to concentrate vitality in the main trunk of the monarchy. The move toward publicly transparent finances suggests that William is preparing for a future in which the royal family must prove its value through governance performance, rather than relying on personal relationships or traditional mystique. Is this an effort to optimize the institution or a strategic move to curtail the influence of Camilla's family? The outward image of unity appears to be masking a decisive internal restructuring. The annual report to be released at the end of July 2025, according to the assumed timeline, created a slight psychological shock within the palace. A familiar name was absent after nearly 2 decades, Annabel Elliot. The removal of Queen Camilla's sister from the list of financial support recipients is not simply a personnel decision. Analysts view it as a modernization decree. While the reason given is the completion of a professional process, one cannot ignore the decisiveness in William's setting of boundaries. In Queen Camilla's mind, this decision was considered a deep cut. For a mother and a sister, seeing her dearest loved ones excluded from the workings of the monarchy was a grim testament to changing times. While King Charles III built stability on tolerance and connection, William seemed to be building it on streamlining and discipline. This difference was creating an atmosphere that the media called fragile tension. The purge in the Duchy of Cornwall closed an old chapter of royal history and opened a new one full of variables. William made his choice. Transparency and efficiency would be the shield of the crown. But what was the price of this modernization? Could the rifts within the family be filled by financial growth figures? In the world of millennia-old institutions, change often doesn't come with loud pronouncements, but rather from quiet moments in financial reports. Recently, a major question has been raised in the Duchy of Cornwall. Why did a steadfast presence of 20 years suddenly vanish the moment a new head of government took office? Unverified sources suggest that behind the numbers lies a whole world of thoughts and strategies, redefining the existence of the monarchy. This is a hypothetical scenario based on governance variables and the deep-seated sentiments behind the palace curtains. Consider Annabel Elliott's career in Cornwall. At 75, she is more than just a designer. She has touched the soul of royal properties from Wales to Scilly. Removing a name that generated hundreds of thousands of pounds in value from the list of collaborators isn't about quality, but rather about frequency. Why would a figure considered essential and trustworthy have to step down? Was the future king trying to prove that in his era, professionalism must be completely detached from family ties? There was talk of tears and an unfillable aesthetic void. For Queen Camilla, this was perhaps more than just a financial decision. As her dearest loved ones gradually left the palace's inner circle, a feeling of being on the sidelines was likely growing. On one side is William's effort to modernize and increase transparency in capital flows. On the other is the anguish of a woman who sees her family gradually becoming invisible within the new power structure. William is playing a game of cards openly. His disclosure of income variables that were previously his father's code sends a chilling message. The era of mystery has ended, giving way to the era of standards. Although the reason may not directly refer to the past, one cannot help but notice a repetition. From Tom to Annabel, a red line is being drawn cruelly but consistently. This is for informational purposes only based on unverified hypotheses and rumors/public opinions. Let's discuss this issue from an objective, analytical perspective. The truth always lies on the boundary between what we see and what we feel. Don't just sit and observe. Be a part of this investigation. Do you find these details extremely logical and curious about the next move? Leave a comment. Key 1. Or will you still maintain a cool, skeptical attitude towards these variables? Press key 0. Don't forget to press like and subscribe right now. This is your ticket to join me in venturing deeper into the hidden corners, lifting the velvet curtains that conceal the truth behind them. S. Amid the grandeur of Buckingham Palace, a state banquet was on the verge of turning into a diplomatic storm until Catherine, with a single graceful gesture, changed everything. The king's anger transformed into admiration, and the entire hall fell silent, witnessing a moment regarded as the pinnacle of royal elegance. What really happened that night, and how could one small act make the whole world bow in awe before the Princess of England? Join us as we uncover the secret behind the gesture that changed the atmosphere of the palace in just a few seconds. What do you think about Princess Catherine's graceful gesture at that dinner? Was it the natural instinct of an elegant woman, or the clever calculation of a born diplomat? If you believe it was pure natural grace, leave the number 1 in the comments. But if you think it was a brilliant diplomatic move, comment 0 below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel to keep following more surprising and emotional royal stories. Princess Catherine, with her confidence and grace, always stands at the center of attention during royal events. As a modern member of the monarchy, she and Prince William have continuously worked to present a warm, approachable image while upholding the long-standing traditions of the United Kingdom. Tonight at Buckingham Palace, a special banquet is being held to welcome a distinguished guest, marking a moment of great diplomatic significance. The grand hall of the palace glows beneath the sparkle of crystal chandeliers, with long tables elegantly adorned with pristine white linens, gleaming silverware, and vibrant bouquets of fresh flowers. Every detail of the evening has been meticulously prepared, reflecting the British royal family's deep respect for world leaders. Tonight's atmosphere is not only one of grandeur and elegance, but also carries a profound message of friendship between nations. The guest of honor at this royal banquet is His Majesty Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, the Emir of Qatar. At 45, he is a leader of remarkable strength and composure, known for his calm yet decisive demeanor. Under his leadership, Qatar has emerged as a key global partner, particularly in the fields of energy and trade. Recently, he delivered an impressive speech at the United Nations, emphasizing Qatar's vital role in promoting peace and international cooperation. His presence in London was not merely a diplomatic visit, but an opportunity to strengthen the ties between the United Kingdom and Qatar. For King Charles, the dinner held far deeper meaning than just a social occasion. The two nations have long maintained close cooperation, particularly in the fields of economy and investment. Qatar owns many significant assets in London, from renowned shopping centers to iconic buildings. Creating a friendly and respectful atmosphere at the dinner was not only a matter of etiquette, but also a way to reinforce mutual trust between the two countries. When Princess Catherine entered the Grand Hall, the atmosphere seemed to change entirely. She wore an elegant ivory gown paired with a diamond tiara that once belonged to the late Queen, radiating grace and sophistication. After her long journey of overcoming illness, her return to royal events carried a special significance, inspiring many with her resilience and sense of duty. With a warm smile and gentle gestures, Princess Catherine embodied not only the role of a royal figure, but also that of a diplomatic bridge bringing warmth and harmony to this important evening. For years, Princess Catherine has been cherished as a symbol of strength and hope. Despite personal challenges, she continues to carry herself with calm dignity and deep compassion. Always ready to connect with others through sincerity, she continued to showcase her unique ability to foster harmony, even in the most delicate moments at the Buckingham Palace banquet. The evening began in a formal yet friendly atmosphere. The gentle clinking of glasses blended with the soft melodies of the orchestra playing in the grand hall. Guests, from high-ranking officials to diplomats, engaged in polite conversation, creating a warm and welcoming ambiance. However, as everyone took their seats at the dinner table, a subtle shift in the air began to emerge. The Emir of Qatar, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, had been seated a few places away from King Charles, next to several British ministers and officials. In diplomatic events, details like seating arrangements carry great significance, reflecting respect and the importance placed on relationships. The Emir, with his usual calm demeanor, seemed more pensive than usual. His aides exchanged quiet whispers, their eyes revealing clear concern. Such a small moment could influence the atmosphere of the entire evening. From the other side of the table, Princess Catherine quietly observed. With her natural sensitivity, she noticed the shift in the honored guest's mood. During her school visits, she had often recognized shy children who needed encouragement. On hospital visits, she was always attuned to the worried looks of families. Tonight, she recognized that the Emir needed a friendly gesture to feel welcomed. Rather than acting hastily, Catherine patiently waited for the right moment. As the first toast was raised and everyone lifted their glasses, she quietly turned to the Emir, her eyes sincere, wearing a warm and respectful smile. She gently raised her glass toward him, a small but meaningful gesture that conveyed appreciation and genuine care. The Emir paused for a moment, looking at Princess Catherine. He gave a slight nod, returning her gesture with a soft smile and raising his glass in response. The atmosphere around him seemed to shift. The lines on his face relaxed, and his aides grew noticeably more at ease. Catherine's simple gesture had broken the tension, creating a genuine connection among the guests. Throughout the evening, Princess Catherine continued to engage the Emir in conversation whenever the opportunity arose. Instead of discussing political or business matters, she chose more personal topics such as family and shared values. She inquired sincerely about the Emir's children, demonstrating that she had taken the time to learn about Qatar's culture and people. Gradually, the Emir opened up, sharing proud moments about his children, something rarely seen from a leader in a public setting. His smiles became more frequent, and the atmosphere at the dinner table grew warm and comfortable. The British officials quietly breathed a sigh of relief, recognizing that Catherine's subtlety had helped the evening run smoothly and strengthened an important diplomatic relationship. The banquet at Buckingham Palace was not just a diplomatic event, but a testament to the power of tact and sincerity. Through small yet meaningful gestures, Princess Catherine helped create a friendly atmosphere, contributing to the reinforcement of the friendship between the United Kingdom and Qatar. It was a lesson in how care and respect can overcome barriers and bring people closer together. Though she held no official role or scripted agenda, Catherine quickly eased the tension with her small, warm, and genuine actions. As the dessert was served, Amir began leaning toward the senior minister seated beside him, engaging in animated conversation. The tense expression he had worn earlier had softened, replaced by a look of joy and enthusiasm. Compliments about the banquet gradually flowed openly from his side of the table, and even his aides started to show signs of satisfaction. Everyone recognized that it was Princess Catherine's kind-hearted gesture that had turned the atmosphere around. But what truly captured the entire room's attention was her next move, one that went far beyond expectations and was so subtle that every eye fell upon her in eager anticipation. The opening of the state banquet had been salvaged, but Catherine knew very well that the night was still long ahead, and state receptions always demanded utmost finesse. Every word spoken, every glance exchanged, every gesture carried meaning far beyond the ancient stone walls of the palace. The king was smiling, yet Catherine clearly remembered the fleeting furrow of his brow earlier. She knew that to maintain this positive atmosphere, she needed to do more than simply make the moment pleasant. She had to affirm that his status at the banquet and his voice on the international stage were both heard and respected. King Charles began his speech with a warm, resonant voice, speaking about the long-standing friendship between the United Kingdom and Qatar. He praised the deep cooperation between the two countries, from energy and education to healthcare, and emphasized the bond between the two royal families spanning generations. The room erupted in applause, and the king once again raised his glass in celebration. When it was the emir's turn to speak, the room fell silent, giving him the full attention he deserved. His English was clear, though tinged with a Qatari accent, lending extra weight to every word. He expressed his deep gratitude to the British royal family for their warm hospitality, but he did not stop at mere pleasantries. The emir spoke about fairness in the global political order, emphasizing the urgent need for peace in Gaza and highlighting the responsibility of leaders to protect families caught in the midst of conflict. The dialogue between the emir and Catherine was one of subtlety and understanding. His voice was deep and resolute, carrying the weight of experience, never shying away from harsh truths, no matter how difficult they might be to hear. The room fell silent. A few guests shifted uncomfortably as a solemn atmosphere descended upon the grand banquet. Amid the warm golden lights and the soft clinking of glassware, his speech was like an unusual gust of frankness and strength. And there was a heaviness to his words. But Catherine, with her calm gaze and bright eyes, remained intently focused. She gave a gentle nod, showing sincere attentiveness, a small gesture that carried deep respect for the head of state. As the speech concluded, applause filled the room, steady but uneven, some out of courtesy, others genuinely moved. With her natural sensitivity, Catherine clearly sensed this. She leaned slightly toward the emir, offering a soft smile, and spoke with heartfelt warmth. "Your words remind us all that wherever we are, every family deserves to live in safety and peace." It was not a mere polite compliment, but a genuine expression of empathy. The emir looked momentarily surprised, then his eyes softened, reflecting a deep sense of appreciation. Catherine didn't diminish his message. Instead, she skillfully expanded it, touching everyone's hearts through the simplest and most sacred of bonds, family love. The atmosphere of the banquet gradually warmed. As the exquisite dishes were served and the soft music resumed, the tension slowly melted away. Later, in a small group gathered around the emir, Catherine took the initiative to steer the conversation. Rather than discussing political or commercial matters, she asked him about education programs in Qatar. Her voice was gentle, but full of genuine interest. She had heard much about the massive investments in education and sports, and about the aspiration to create opportunities for the youth. This time, the emir leaned toward her, his tone becoming more animated. He shared details about new projects, international scholarships, and training centers for young athletes. Catherine smiled, her eyes shining with admiration. The conversation had shifted from diplomatic exchange to a moment of true connection between two visions, a leader carrying faith in the future and a woman who knew how to awaken hope in others. The dinner continued in a formal atmosphere, with silver trays gliding gracefully across the room like flowing streams of light. On the table, the exquisite porcelain set reflected the warm golden light, polished cutlery gleamed, and crystal glasses shimmered with sparkling mineral water and fine wine. Catherine gently leaned toward the emir, signaling that she remained fully attentive. In a calm voice, she mentioned his recent visit to Oxford earlier in the week, where the emir had met Qatari students studying science and medicine. The emir's face gradually softened, his eyes warming. He proudly spoke about those students, young people filled with ambition and knowledge, returning to serve their homeland, most of whom were supported by government scholarships. Catherine deftly picked up the conversation, sharing that she had read about a Qatari student researching renewable energy contributing to clean technology, a field the UK is also heavily investing in. "Truly inspiring?" she said softly, her voice filled with admiration for the innovative spirit of the younger generation. The emir let out a short but genuine laugh, instantly shifting the atmosphere at the table. The tension in the room seemed to melt away. Catherine had chosen a subtle approach, saying little but every word resonating with her counterpart's concerns. She showed respect, highlighting the values he cherished most: intellect, education, and national pride. King Charles, seated nearby, quietly observed. His eyes were filled with trust, as if acknowledging that his daughter-in-law's calm demeanor had brought about something rituals could not connection. The conversation then shifted to soccer, the king's well-known passion. When mentioning the 2022 World Cup, his voice carried clear pride. Catherine listened attentively, then deftly added with a gentle smile, she spoke of Prince George, her young son, and his budding love for soccer. He was thrilled watching the Euros, especially when England played. She said, her tone warm yet respectful. The king chuckled heartily. "So the boy only cheers for England, does he?" he teased, prompting laughter from the group. Catherine smiled in response. "Children sometimes have their own idols, Your Majesty. He also loves learning from players all over the world." That seemingly simple remark made the conversation feel closer. She was not just representing the British royal family. She was a mother, a woman who connected through sincerity. For the king, who always put family first, that moment held deep meaning. Amid the lavish rituals of a state banquet, Catherine skillfully turned the conversation into a bridge between two cultures, two hearts, with her sincerity, intelligence, and empathy. At the far end of the table, other guests continued their own conversations, their laughter mingling with the soft clink of glasses. No one could deny that the evening's centerpiece was the refined dialogue between the Princess of Wales and the King of Qatar. After their initial exchange, the king brought up trade, a topic that had long weighed on him. This time, his tone was lighter, more composed. "Let us build bridges of understanding where sincerity and intelligence connect cultures, dissolving the distances between nations. Let us speak and act for a just world where every agreement and voice is respected. Together we can spark change through meaningful conversations. Act today for a future of harmony and justice. Like and share this video to spread the message and make a difference together." Where cooperation is sometimes overshadowed by political interests, Catherine listened with a calm gaze. She didn't rush to interrupt or make promises, but allowed him to speak fully. When the king paused, she gently nodded and responded with a clear, thoughtful voice. Your Majesty, the United Kingdom has always valued the strength of partnerships. What matters is not just the numbers, but the long-term vision. Together we look toward a future where cooperation benefits both sides. This was more than mere polite words. Her tone conveyed genuine respect. She understood his need to be heard, and she did so without overstepping her role. A delicate balance, and Catherine had mastered it perfectly. As dessert was served, the atmosphere had completely changed. Fresh fruit and pastries were artfully arranged, with the soft glow of the lights reflecting off the porcelain, creating a warm ambiance. The king, once restless now, appeared relaxed, a constant smile on his face. The guests around them loosened up as well, engaging in more open conversations. Gentle music filled the room, the sound of string instruments weaving through the air, erasing any lingering distance. Catherine leaned back slightly, her gaze gentle yet sharp, realizing the evening had transformed entirely. What could have been a tense moment had turned into a diplomatic story told through empathy and wisdom. The king's advisors also noticed the change. They exchanged glances, almost surprised. They knew their master well, a steadfast leader, rarely soft-spoken. Yet now he was comfortably laughing and talking with Catherine, no longer defensive or tense. The trade issues remained, but they took on a different shape, not complaints, but discussions wrapped in respect and goodwill. Catherine had not only shifted the king's mood, but had also skillfully softened the entire room's atmosphere. Still, she maintained her calm demeanor. She understood that in diplomacy, pride could return at any moment. But then, as the night deepened, the king suddenly silenced everyone around him. He leaned back in his chair, his eyes following Catherine amid the flickering candlelight, and gave a mysterious smile. Everyone knew that his next words would once again shift the atmosphere. Throughout most of the evening, Catherine had guided the conversation with patience and grace. Her voice was gentle, her transitions between topics smooth, making everyone feel heard without leaving anyone behind. Yet now the moment of challenge has arrived. After a long pause, the king cleared his throat and lowered his voice just enough for the room to fall silent. He spoke with a calm demeanor, but with a deep underlying concern. England always talks about cooperation appropriately and frankly. But sometimes I feel that Qatar is asked to give more than it receives. That is truly unfair. The entire banquet fell silent. The clinking of cutlery paused softly. Though his words were polite, they touched the most sensitive point, the root of the evening's earlier tension. A few attendants shifted uneasily while King Charles remained composed, his eyes watching Catherine as if entrusting her with confidence. He understood this was the moment for her to prove her true capability. Catherine leaned slightly toward the king, her eyes steady and unflinching. Her voice was deep and clear. "Your Majesty, I understand your concerns. Respect must always come from both sides. And tonight I believe your voice has been heard and valued here." Her words were gentle yet firm, carrying the strength of genuine understanding. The king looked at her for a long moment, somewhat surprised. He was not used to hearing such a straightforward yet respectful response from a royal figure. Usually, people would choose to avoid the issue or soften the topic with polite formalities. But Catherine did not shy away. She faced the matter with confidence and respect. Sensing the silence still lingering in the room, Catherine skillfully took a step further. She spoke of the long-standing relationship between the UK and Qatar, not just tied to trade figures, but to real people, cultural bonds, and trust built over time. "Your Majesty," she continued, "many Qatari families consider London their second home. The students studying at British schools, the doctors trained in British hospitals. These are not just partnerships, but trust between people. The king leaned back slightly, the tension in his eyes gradually fading. He smiled softly, his voice warmer. "Princess, you speak very honestly. It's rare that I hear such words." In that moment, the tension that had just surfaced completely dissipated. The quiet murmur of conversation around the table resumed, and the atmosphere felt relieved. Catherine didn't avoid the issue. She faced it with tact, subtlety, and sincerity. To prevent the discussion from sinking back into political heaviness, she smoothly shifted to a lighter topic. With a calm smile, she asked about the cultural projects Qatar was investing in, the new museum's international art programs, and efforts to expand cultural exchange. The king immediately brightened, speaking passionately about his dream to make Doha a creative hub for the region. And so, with intelligence and empathy, the evening continued. Once again, Catherine transformed a tense moment into a bridge between two worlds with words that were gentle, yet more powerful than any diplomatic strategy. The king seemed to light up anew. His voice brimmed with vitality as he shared his grand vision, turning Doha into a global cultural center where art, knowledge, and creativity converge. Catherine listened attentively, her eyes shining with genuine interest. She skillfully continued the conversation, sharing stories about her own visits to art galleries with her children, peaceful afternoons spent admiring paintings and discussing the meaning of beauty together. The way she naturally connected family life with the aspirations of a leader made the conversation unusually intimate. The king chuckled a short but heartfelt laugh. "Princess, you remind me that leadership is also about being a parent." Those words struck a chord, reminding everyone that behind titles and power, people are still mothers and fathers carrying kindness and concerns for future generations. Those nearby exchanged affectionate glances with a few soft smiles spreading quietly. The once tense room now brimmed with warmth and gentle laughter. It was no longer the atmosphere of politics, but one of understanding. As night gradually fell, the banquet moved into the formal ceremony. King Charles stepped forward to speak, his voice steady and solemn as usual, praising the friendship and the importance of trust between nations. Then it was the King of Qatar's turn. The entire room fell silent, everyone remembering the sharp tone he had earlier in the evening. But this time he was different. Standing tall, his voice calm and measured, he no longer spoke of injustice or demands, but of mutual respect. He praised the hospitality of the British royal family, the elegance of Buckingham Palace, and the sincere spirit everyone had shown him that night. In that quiet moment, he turned to Catherine, his eyes sincere. "I thank the princess for her kindness throughout this evening." The room erupted in warm applause. King Charles nodded softly, clearly pleased, but those attentive enough knew it was Catherine who had truly made that moment possible. Amidst the formalities and political distances, she had rekindled the bridge of dialogue through listening intelligence and a compassionate heart. As the king returned to his seat, his expression was noticeably more relaxed. The sharp words from earlier had softened into gentle admiration. The attendants, once tense, now also eased and smiled softly. Catherine showed no pride or complacency. She simply smiled politely, returning to her usual calm demeanor. But everyone in that room understood that something important had just happened. The Princess of Wales had achieved what no speech could, turning disagreement into understanding and transforming complaints into gracious praise. As the string quartet music resumed, closing the warm evening under the golden lights, Catherine kept a gentle smile on her lips. She knew the night was far from over. Behind the palace doors, another exchange awaited one that would leave a profound mark far beyond the ancient walls of Buckingham. The banquet was nearly over. The gleaming plates had been cleared away, the music gently faded, and guests began to rise, exchanging polite farewells. Yet amid the quiet, the echo of something extraordinary remained. The King of Qatar, who had earlier cast a tense atmosphere over the room, had closed with a speech full of praise and goodwill. Still, everyone understood that it was Catherine's calm presence that truly made the evening complete. As the king prepared to leave, the light from the crystal chandeliers cast a dignified glow upon him. He paused and turned to Catherine, his eyes no longer cold or guarded, but holding a rare look of gratitude. The attendants were ready to escort him out, but he raised a hand gently, signaling them to wait. His voice was deep and sincere. "Princess, tonight you reminded me that respect cannot be forced. It must be earned through genuine sincerity. For that, I thank you." Catherine bowed her head slightly, a gentle smile gracing her lips. She said nothing, only gave a soft nod that conveyed humility and gratitude. Those nearby could clearly feel that in that moment, the king was truly moved. Then something unexpected happened. As he reached for his coat, Catherine gently placed one hand over her heart, then extended her other hand toward him. It was not a rigid diplomatic handshake, but a simple, sincere gesture full of meaning and strength. The king paused. For a few seconds he simply looked at her, then placed his own hand over his heart, in return a matching gesture that was both respectful and symbolic. The entire room fell silent. No one spoke. Only the soft clicks of cameras echoed faintly from the far end of the hall. That moment, a British royal and a Middle Eastern leader had become a powerful image of understanding and respect, transcending all differences. From a distance, King Charles witnessed it all. He smiled quietly, his eyes filled with pride and relief. He understood that moments like these in diplomacy are incredibly fragile. One wrong word, one careless gesture, and everything could collapse. But Catherine had done more than that. She not only soothed a difficult guest, but also strengthened a delicate relationship with respect and kindness, without promises, without grand declarations. As the king stepped out of the hall, he turned back one last time, his voice ringing clearly through the quiet space. "Tonight, England has shown genuine friendship. May this spirit guide our relationship forward." Applause rose, not loud, but deep and heartfelt. All eyes turned to Catherine, the woman who had written a new chapter in what had seemed like a mere ceremonial banquet. In that moment, diplomacy was no longer politics. It had become the art of the human heart, where humility, listening, and respect could transform the very atmosphere of the world. Even the guests who had been anxious earlier nodded in agreement as the doors closed behind the king. The air in Buckingham Palace seemed lighter than at any other point that evening. Conversation flowed warmly throughout the grand hall, filled with a newfound sense of closeness and goodwill. Many praised Catherine's role not with flowery words, but with genuine admiration. Some noticed how she listened more than she spoke. Others admired how skillfully she sought common values instead of emphasizing differences. For Catherine, these praises were not what she sought. Returning to Prince William, who was still chatting with guests, she smiled softly and quietly said, "George will want to know everything went well." That seemingly simple remark revealed her true self, a mother who places family above royal glory, someone who always knows how to balance public duty with private affection. In the days that followed, media outlets everywhere began covering the state banquet. Major newspapers published images of the heartfelt moment between Catherine and the King of Qatar, the simple hand gesture that transcended all political differences. Commentators noted that it wasn't the formal speeches or trade agreements that made the evening memorable, but the genuine human connection. In Doha, news reports echoed the same sentiment. The press there praised the Princess of Wales for her sincerity and respect toward the king, honoring his dignity, even while he stood on foreign soil. Diplomats also quickly recognized the significance of that moment's impact. A senior official from the foreign ministry was quoted saying, "Sometimes diplomacy happens in meeting rooms with documents and signatures, but sometimes it takes place in a small gesture at the dining table where sincerity replaces words," and that night was a vivid testament to this truth. As for Catherine herself, she remained characteristically silent. She did not respond to the praise, nor did she seek the spotlight. Instead, she returned to her daily work, visiting schools, participating in children's activities, and charitable organizations, bringing hope to the places where she always puts her heart. Yet everyone present at Buckingham Palace that evening knew they had witnessed a historic moment. There, a woman with a gentle smile and calm demeanor not only changed the mood of a king, but also deeply imprinted the image of England through the power of kindness and understanding. This story highlights Catherine's truly special role. She wasn't elected, nor was she a politician, yet through her compassion and genuine care, she represented her country in a way that required no power or title. While many might demonstrate strength through words, Catherine chose a different path, the power of listening and the grace of a small gesture, something that can often resonate farther than the boldest declarations. That's why that night is remembered not as a story of conflict or tension, but as a lesson in understanding and humanity between people. Guests who had entered the hall feeling uneasy left with admiration. The king, who had once voiced sharp demands, departed with respect. And Catherine, who sought no public spotlight, became the center of the evening through her humility and grace. The banquet ended under the warm golden lights of Buckingham Palace, as if that light not only illuminated the room but also reflected the inner beauty of a person who places compassion above all protocol. Thanks to a princess and a single gesture, the memory of that night has become a symbol of kindness and emotional intelligence, a testament that sometimes the smallest actions leave the deepest impressions. What about you? Do you believe that a small gesture can change the entire atmosphere of a diplomatic event, just like Princess Catherine did? If you do, leave a 1 in the comments. But if you think everything requires strategy and thorough preparation, comment 0 instead. Enjoy the video hit. Like, share, and leave a subscription to support the channel as we continue exploring. Shadows swallow Heathrow Airport as a lone figure slips through the gates. No security detail, no royal fanfare. The world watches in disbelief as the realization hits Prince Harry has returned. But why would the man who walked away from the crown arrive like a fugitive in the dead of night? While the global media ignites with speculation, the reality is far more chilling than any headline. It all traces back to a clandestine letter stamped with King Charles's private seal, a document Meghan Markle was never meant to see. Tension grips the palace walls as Camilla's fury reaches a breaking point, while Prince William has vanished without a trace. Whispers from the inner circle suggest this isn't a royal reunion, but a final stand against a ticking time bomb, a chilling secret buried for decades that is finally reaching its tipping point. Before we reveal the truth behind this royal crisis, make sure to hit that subscribe button, like this video, and drop your wildest theories in the comments. Let's dive into the mystery together. Some nights history isn't forged under the glowing chandeliers of grand banquets or through polished handshakes over champagne. Instead, the world is shaped in the shadows beneath the cold, relentless London rain. It's a heavy, somber London where centuries of royal secrets seem to bleed into the very stone of ancient cathedrals. Imagine a scenario so daring, so high stakes, that even the boldest Hollywood screenwriters wouldn't dare to put it on paper. A man born into the highest echelons of royalty who once stood on the Buckingham Palace balcony before millions now navigates airport security like a ghost. There are no trumpets, no red carpets, and not a single bodyguard to be found. With a baseball cap tugged low to mask his face and a dark hoodie draped over his frame, he moves through the crowd unnoticed. Yet those few who manage to catch a glimpse of his eyes describe them as haunting, carrying the weight of a gathering storm. Is it fear or the raw determination of a man with nothing left to lose? This solitary figure hidden within the rushing crowd has ignited a firestorm across private forums and insider circles over the last 24 hours. Whispers suggest this is none other than Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex. Despite his efforts to vanish, keen observers point to unmistakable signs: that signature stride, the white-knuckled grip on his backpack straps, and a glimpse of a tattoo on his wrist. Every detail points to one staggering reality: the exiled son has come home. But why this question is currently haunting millions? Why would a man who turned his back on the crown, who penned a memoir to sever every tie, and who sought a new life under the California sun, suddenly return to the very den of wolves? He once renounced, "The digital world is convinced this isn't just a casual visit." Perhaps the truth isn't found in a longing for home, but in something far more calculated. Instead, the truth is hidden within a single object of immense weight. A letter, a mysterious document sealed in crimson wax, long thought lost, the kind of seal that, according to royal legend, only emerges when a dynasty teeters on the edge of survival. If the whispers from the inner circle are true, Harry didn't come back by choice. He came back because he was summoned. Today we journey beyond the headlines to dissect the truth behind this suspicious homecoming. We're going deeper than the surface of the mainstream media. We will descend into the shadows to assemble the fractured pieces of this puzzle, decoding the whispers from the palace halls and exploring the most daring theories. In a hidden corner of history where secrets refuse to stay buried, could a haunting truth from the era of Princess Diana finally come to light? Is this a long-forgotten promise or a debt of blood that has finally come due? The question remains: is Harry returning as the savior of the crown, or the spark that will ignite the final collapse of the Windsor Empire? Ladies and gentlemen, watching that solitary figure at Heathrow Airport serves as a haunting reminder of the weight of legacy. We often find ourselves captivated by the allure of power, the glow of fame, and the immense wealth of legendary dynasties. Yet we overlook the reality that extreme privilege always carries a heavy price. In that quiet moment of isolation, Harry isn't just facing the emptiness of his own journey, he is standing in the long shadow of a crown where every movement is dissected, and every breath is burdened by expectations that never end. Being born into a world of luxury doesn't provide a shield against the storms of life. Sometimes the very name you inherit and the blood in your veins become the heaviest chains of all. Despite fleeing halfway across the globe and renouncing his titles, Harry remains tethered to the shadow of his past. This return, regardless of its purpose, is definitive proof you can leave your home, but you can never truly leave your roots, especially when those roots are defined by wounds that have never been allowed to heal. In our own lives, we often believe that silence or physical distance can erase family conflicts and deep-seated issues. But the truth is, they don't disappear. They remain in the shadows, quietly smoldering, waiting for the moment we are forced to face them. True courage isn't found in running away. It is found in the return, in the willingness to confront the ghosts of our past, even when the only thing we have left to hold on to is the pain. We often carry our wounds and mistake that burden for growth, but true strength is found in the courage to return and heal them. Are you ready to face your own past? Comment 1 if you agree, or 0 if you have a different perspective. I hope this journey has given you a little strength for your own path. Enjoy the experience, and don't forget to hit subscribe and share this video with someone who needs to hear this message today. It all began on a somber afternoon, a stark contrast to the sun-drenched glamour of Montecito, California, the ultimate sanctuary for the global elite. According to sources deep within the local aristocracy, neighbors noted a sudden unsettling shift in the atmosphere surrounding the Sussex estate. The usual sounds of laughter and the energy of garden parties had vanished, replaced by a heavy, suffocating silence that seemed to consume the entire grounds. It all started when a sleek, armored black sedan with deep-tinted windows pulled silently up to the main gate. This wasn't a local vehicle, nor did it carry the familiar branding of shipping giants like FedEx or UPS. A mysterious figure stepped out, not in a uniform, but in a bespoke black suit, reflecting the precision of England's legendary Savile Row. Insiders speculate that his rigid posture, piercing gaze, and calculated movements exuded the unmistakable discipline of the royal military elite. Could this be a member of the Grey Men? The legendary figures in slate-colored suits who manage the palace's most sensitive affairs? What this mysterious visitor handed directly to Meghan Markle wasn't a court summons or a social invitation. It was a thick, substantial envelope crafted from handmade vellum, the same ancient stationery the royal family has utilized for centuries. But what truly froze the air was the unmistakable seal that guarded its contents. Sharp-eyed observers and heraldry experts have pointed out that the crimson wax seal on the envelope displayed an incredibly rare emblem. This wasn't the standard royal crest. Instead, it appeared to be King Charles's personal seal, a symbol of ultimate authority reserved for only 2 scenarios: a national emergency threatening the very survival of the crown, or a family tragedy so deeply buried it cannot be spoken of. If these reports are accurate, a haunting question emerges: why was Meghan forbidden from opening that letter? Anonymous sources believed to be staff members within the estate have shared a chilling detail that sends a shiver through anyone who hears it. As Meghan reached for a letter opener to break the seal, Harry suddenly appeared. He didn't just enter the room. He charged in. Rumors suggest he snatched the envelope from his wife's hands in a state of sheer panic, his fingers trembling uncontrollably as he reclaimed the document. If the contents were a simple health update from an aging father or a formal invitation to a royal ceremony, would a man like Harry, a veteran of the battlefield, react with such raw intensity, or does that aged, yellowed paper reeking of history contain a final ultimatum? The digital world is now buzzing with a chilling theory. This letter, though bearing King Charles's personal emblem, may not have been written by the king's hand alone. In a parallel universe of conspiracy theories, it's whispered that King Charles, facing health challenges, shielded by the cold stone walls of London, has decided to activate a truth mechanism. Could this letter hold echoes from the past? Perhaps it contains words tied to a long-forgotten promise, a haunting secret regarding Princess Diana's final days, or an unpaid blood debt whose interest has finally come due. Harry remained silent after reading the document. No explanation followed, and there was no room for debate. According to household staff, that silence was far more terrifying than his most explosive outbursts. It was the hollow silence of a man who had just glimpsed his own death sentence or the end of something he cherished even more than life itself. In that moment, the image of the carefree father in California seemed to vanish. All that remained was Prince Harry, the royal soldier receiving his orders for one final mission: